Hi, welcome to Zionist Talks with the Jerusalem Post. Today I'm here with Civia Caroline, and I think it's best for us to jump right in if that's all right with you.
Let's do it.
So, jumping right into my first question, can you start off by telling us about your journey and passion for music and culture in Israel and the intersection of that?
Yeah, it's quite a journey, I guess. So I grew up in a very Zionist religious household. I grew up in a sort of Chabad religious Zionist sort of household. So my relationship with Israel was always very strong. But I'd say it was from a more religious perspective. At least, the times I went to Israel and everything, it was sort of like from that point of view. I did have a lot of family in Israel who wasn't religious, so I got to see a little bit, but it really wasn't until I got involved with JNF that I started to see Israel in a whole new light. And just from a peoplehood perspective, from a land perspective, and then really also from a cultural perspective. And I got involved with JNF probably 13 years ago, 14 years ago. And I was well into my career in the music industry. So that was very much a focus of mine. I got into the music industry because I believed in the power of music, whether it's to help people through mental health challenges, through lonely times, through just creating, for me, it was a real community builder. I really built a huge community of friends and people around different artists and bands and music that I loved, and then turned that into a career. So when I started to see Israel in this new light, I saw the incredible artists in Israel. For me, my focus, my first love was music, but it was all around. It's the TV, it's the film, it's the visual arts, it's the dance, it's the theater. It's such a rich cultural place that just creates so much amazing art. And to me, that's the ultimate community builder. JNF-USA is so focused on building community. That's the ultimate community builder and connector, and it's the universal language. So through my involvement with JNF, we were working in the South and in the North and building these communities. And I was just like, hey, if we're going to build communities, we need more than just hospitals and houses and roads and community centers and all these amazing things that are necessary, but we need to make sure there's food for the soul and that there's culture. So from there, things developed, and we got to start the Arts and Entertainment Initiative within JNF-USA to help bring arts and entertainment initiatives into the Negev and Galil communities.
That's amazing. So actually part of what you talked about were having these the arts and entertainment as a universal connector is actually directly leading me to my next question, which is amazing. So, how do you think arts and music can help reconnect the global community to Zionism and Jewish heritage, which you kind of already touched on?
Yeah, I think I think it's a deep question with so many layers. Like I said, I do believe that art is the universal language. It is the ultimate connector. It's a way to see different cultures as human, to see what you can relate to, what's not just so foreign and different, but also what's real and what's common and what connects us. And that's human stories, which is told through music, through poetry, through film. And I really do believe that not only Jews in America, but Jews in the diaspora, who, especially younger Jews who may be not feeling as strong of a connection to Israel or being very conflicted with their identity around it, just seeing and hearing the stories from Israel and the music from Israel is a way to connect. And it doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be religious. It doesn't have to be anything, but it's something that's hits your soul because it's where we come from. And there's so much rich history there that just connecting to the stories and to the music is a really special way to connect and to see see the beauty.
Absolutely. I think that that could really resonate with a lot of people in my generation, especially like diaspora Jews who are
Yeah.
like just having a little bit of a disconnect, shall we say.
An
So
identity crisis. Not,
yeah,
I mean, I think that that's also, I know we're going to touch on the World Zionist Village, but, one of the biggest issues I see in America, especially with younger Jews, is they don't know who they are. Like, they think Jewish is just like, oh, yeah, well, my friends celebrate Christmas. We grew up celebrating Hanukkah. Like, they don't know about Jewish peoplehood. They don't know about that we're an ethno-religion, that we're a people that has this rich history, that the tribal traditions and all of these things, that we're actually a people, a land-based people, and that informs so much of our traditions. So it's easy to get lost in the rhetoric, and because you don't know that, you don't know your own identity. And I really do believe in storytelling and art and music as a way to connect to your own identity, let alone learn about others.
fair. Yeah. So going into my next question, you mentioned at the start of like our conversation that you came from a very Zionist family. That clearly is a big part of your identity. So what does being a Zionist means to you, and how do you like actively live out your Zionist beliefs in your daily life?
I think it's ever evolving. Like I said, growing up, I don't know that I actually would have said yes, I'm a Zionist, because it wasn't, I didn't need to be. Like, it was just so much a part, like it wasn't a question. Israel was just like, of course I love Israel. Israel's a part of my story. I didn't feel this drive to do something about it, um, until I kind of became an adult and went out into the real world. And, um, I remember sitting in my first job at a record label in New York and reading about the flotilla and just feeling this sense of loneliness. Like, nobody's I was so distraught, and people didn't get it, or they were just mentioning it in passing. And I was like, what is going on? What is this? There's something deeper here. And then I started getting involved in different organizations. It wasn't until I moved to LA a few years later that I really got involved with JNF-USA. And like I said, that really changed my perspective on what Zionism is and what my role in Zionism is. And, there's so many layers to Zionism. There's Zionism that goes back thousands of years, since we were expelled. And then there's, the more modern Zionism that was really about founding the state of Israel. But now I believe our job as Zionists is to help Israel thrive, to protect it and help it thrive. And that's for the land, for the people, for everybody who lives there, for, making sure it's a place that really represents our values and can continue to grow and connect with other people.
So based off of that, like the answer you just gave me, like you mentioned a lot about there's a Zionism of kind of like days of yore, there's a Zionism around the time of like the founding of the modern state of Israel and that whole build up to 1947. Um, would you, or the 1940s in general, would you say that now with the modern Zionism you kind of mentioned where we're ensuring that this place is a place that reflects our Jewish values? Do you kind of perceive that as the new role of Zionism in the world today, or do you think it's something different?
I think it has a few different roles, and I think it depends on who you are as an individual and which parts of it are yours. We all have a piece of it. For me, I think that making sure it represents Jewish values is a big part of it, which includes, Or Lagayim, being a light unto the nations, and leading with research and development and technology, but also with values and democracy and things that we believe in and that we thrive on. I think for others, it's more about preserving, the protection of the land. And so for others, it's more religious. I mean, there's so many layers to it, and I think they're all important. And Zionism is sort of an all-encompassing, listen, it's about the sovereignty of the Jewish people, right? It's not to the exclusion of anybody else. It's just that we have a safe homeland in our ancestral homeland. And there are many pieces to that.
Absolutely. I think like you've mentioned in all your answers, it's a much more multifaceted concept than I think is reflected in a lot of like current trains of thought in general. And just it's multifaceted even among Jews. Like I don't think we realize how multifaceted it really can be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like the classic ask two Jews, get three opinions, but it's like more like two Jews, 25 opinions. Like, and there's so many different layers and different avenues. And I think that's the beauty of Zionism, specifically, with my activism through JNF-USA, is wherever your interests are, whatever's important to you, there's a way for you to be an activist, to be an advocate, to help build, what you believe in.
Absolutely. So going off of that, you've talked about there's so many different ways for anyone who's interested in any matter of thing to kind of be an activist and be an advocate. So in your opinion, then, how can we take ownership of our narrative and how can we reclaim our story as a people?
So I kind of have two different answers. Well, not different, but also this is a good opportunity to plug our latest initiative, which is the Israel Entertainment Fund, which is starting as a $3 million fund with JNF-USA and Nati Dinar, who's the CEO of Israel Entertainment Fund, that is collaborating with Israeli producers to create Israeli content for the international audience. So we've have Fauda and Shtisel and shows like that get on Netflix, but they're few and far between, and there's so much amazing Israeli content that's getting made, and we want to make sure it's seen by a wider audience. So we are co-funding and co-producing these projects that we then work with our advisory board here in the US to work with the major distributors and the major platforms. So we have a few big projects in the pipeline now, but I mentioned that because I really do believe that that's how we reclaim our narrative, is through storytelling, through film, through documentaries, through music, through all of these incredible ways of storytelling that are really about touching the heart of people and showing Israel, yes, there's conflict, and yes, there's a lot of religion stuff, but at the heart of it is humans and people, and that's how we really just tell our story and humanize the people. And again, I'll always advocate for music and art as a way to really tell our story of who we are. And then there's the other side of, there's the social media, there's the news, there's all these things where it can really be easy to get discouraged. But I think one of the things I tell myself is there's so much more of them than there are of us. Like if we're kind of constantly fighting this defensive game, we won't win. And the biggest answer to reclaiming our narrative is to know who we are and be proud of who we are, and to live Jewish joy and live in our tradition and live in our values in a way that that we feel good about and that we can stand proud about, and just not be on the defense. I mean, yes, we have to address hate on some level, but I really do think in the long term it's through telling these stories and through really knowing who we are.
I absolutely resonate with that. I think obviously there's a place for Hasbara. Obviously there's a place for like more defensive strategies like you talked about, but what gets people talking are these universal connectors like music, like television, like movies. Like if we can all bond over a piece of art, I feel like it goes a little bit deeper,
Honestly, some of my favorite Instagram activists to follow are like Israeli chefs and musicians and all of these things, because it's not just about, oh, they hate us and da da da, and we have to fight. It's, this is who we are. Look at this amazing stuff that we create, and we want to share it with you, you know?
Absolutely. I've been obsessed. Adina Zuzman, if she's watching, she's my favorite. I make all of her stuff all the time. And she's so proud to just be like, yeah, these are natural ingredients we use here in Israel. I'm having so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my final question for you. How do you see your community and vision for Zionism coming to life at the World Zionist College or World Zionist Village? So sorry.
Yeah. I mean, we've sort of touched on a lot of it, but you know, all of these things we're talking about now is creating this sort of central hub that's going to be a beautiful campus with people from all different cultures and religions and backgrounds coming together to learn about Israel and to learn the story of the Jewish people and to have conversations. Like we said, to choose 25 opinions, like that's part of our tradition. That's part of who we are. Like, we need that debate. We need those healthy conversations to keep that tradition alive, and for us to keep going, you know, for us to keep learning and growing. And I think it's going to be really cool to have that space in Beersheba that people can just come to from all over the world and learn, whether they're Jewish and coming to learn about themselves, or they're not and they're coming to learn about Israel and the Jewish people and what Israel has to offer to the world. I think it's going to be a really impactful and special place, and especially, like we were talking about before, for, you know, the younger generations who've lost touch with who they are, and for lost touch for who we are as a people. I think having something like this that they can come to, whether it's for a few days or a few months as part of a bigger program, can be life-changing.
And I think everyone's very excited to see the project get completed and hopefully open around 2028 is what I was told. So yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me on this installation of Zionist Talks. I hope everyone at home had so much fun watching and learning a little bit more about this big endeavor. I'll see you everyone next time. Bye-bye.